Jeremy Gerber, co-owner of the Roadster Shop, and today we are going for a cruise in a 66 Pontiac Catalina Survivor build that we just finished up. Believe it or not, this is my first time driving the car, so this is going to be about as honest of a review as you can get. Typical Survivor build for us. Older restoration on the car. Started off, the customer saw the pretty radical 65 Catalina that we built for Barry Bloomquist, and happened to have a 66 himself that was bone stock. Obviously not a pleasure to drive. Contacted us and we got started with a Roadster Shop Fast Track independent chassis. So the chassis that's underneath this car is a bone stock production Fast Track independent rear chassis. They are 14-inch brakes, all the goodies, the Fox RSV 4.0 shocks on all four corners, single adjustable. Man, the car rides awesome. I mean, to be expected. I always like getting in these big heavy cars. Anything with an independent, always a pleasure to drive. So far this thing does not disappoint. Brisk, freezing cold winter day. We always seem to pick the best days to go for these little test drives here in the dead of winter in Chicago. Car actually seals up pretty good. It's got a vintage air system in it, all controlled on the interior here through our Roadster Shop vehicle infotainment screen. Didn't control the entire vehicle with it, so this is a good example of a nice mix of analog gauge. It's a Dakota cluster, so Dakota Digital did a one of their RTX clusters for it. Coupled with that is the touch screen. So the functions on the touch screen are primarily AC and heat, and then as we toggle through these screens, we also have audio. So pretty simple, very easy to use, Bluetooth audio. I actually like these controls kind of a lot better than a lot of the traditional either sliders or some of the available digital type controls. Now I have a lot of seat time in the 65 Catalina that we did for Barry, so I know kind of what to expect. Little different animal here as far as power plant goes. This is a Wegner LS3 supercharged. It's an Edelbrock supercharger that we machined a custom blower plate for the top of it, just to kind of dress it up, get rid of that Edelbrock kind of cast piece, make it look more appropriate, more at home between the fenders of this Catalina. Haven't gotten on this thing yet, but this motor makes in the ballpark about 850 horse, so plenty of power, usable power too. I mean, the car drives super tame. I presume that getting on it with this independent rear, these independent rears always put the power down so good. So we'll see. When we find a nice stretch of road, we'll stretch its legs. Yeah, it feels like a sports car. You know, you do not feel like you're in a big boat of a car. Looking forward to the customer getting behind the wheel, because this is just night and day different. Damn. The car's pretty fast. Pretty damn fast. Yeah, I'd say that's quite the sleeper. Very unsuspecting. Love the power and the torque. Everything Wegner does when it's supercharged, man, he has a way of just nailing the cam in these boosted motors. It's always on the money. General drivability, I mean, super nice. It's got one of our RS billet pedal assemblies in it, so that works out all the kinks with any of your ratios. Pedal stops, pedal travel, ergonomics. These things are super adjustable side to side, so you can place them exactly where you want them. The right offset from the brake pedal to the drive-by-wire gas pedal. Honestly, one of the better things you can do in a car that you intend to drive. It's actually a pedal assembly that we do offer for sale. It's somewhat of a universal piece, something that I'd strongly recommend. I mean, a direct fit for some of the Camaros, some of the popular muscle cars, but we do take that pedal assembly and graft it into just about every car that we do. Anything that's a manual transmission. And this particular car, it is a 6-speed T56. The long tail shaft trans from Bowler Transmission. So Mark usually does his upgrade on these transmissions, especially when we're doing something supercharged. You know, I think he calls it his stage 3 kit. Great go-to guy for a clutch throwout bearing trans package. This is a Tilton twin disc clutch with a Tilton hydraulic throwout bearing. Good pedal feel, easy to come off the line, easy car to drive. Yeah, man, it's this thing is just really, at a glance, very stock looking 66 Catalina. The lowered stance on these particular cars, the ride height, you know, I think it really pops. Swapping this generation car onto the Roadster Shop chassis, man, it's one of it's just one of those cars. You know, we swap the Camaros look awesome, you get kind of used to them, but when you take these big, long wheelbase cars that you're not typically used to seeing guys do, get them down at the right ride height, I mean, it really is cool. I dig this thing quite a bit. You know, cosmetically on the exterior, being that the car is super stock, it was a pretty easy decision to stick with that big 8-lug wheel, that, you know, the original Pontiac style kind of drum brake wheel. You know, I'm not a major Pontiac buff, so you Pontiac guys, you know, don't jump all over me if I'm not explaining that correctly. Originally did those wheels through Jesse Greening at Greening Auto Company on the 65 Catalina we did for Barry. It was a pretty complex machine part. Like a 4-piece wheel with an outer beauty ring. What we did on this car to kind of simplify it, take some of the cost, take some of the labor out of it, Jesse redesigned that wheel to just do it as like a conventional 2-piece wheel. 18 by 10 up front, 19 by 12 out back. Still utilizes a little bolt-on center cap on it that's a little bit customizable. So we kind of put our Roadster Shop motors, we sneak that in there. Yeah, anybody looking for that Pontiac wheel, I mean, it is available. Reach out, give us a shout, give Jesse Greening a shout. I know Goolsby Customs, they've got one coming down the pipeline that's riding on that same wheel and tires. Should be a pretty awesome build. Martin Brothers, they've got a 66. It's actually Joe Martin's car that I see Chad Glasshagel, he kind of banged that thing out, and he's got some teaser pics of it. Yeah, I think these cars are starting to become more and more popular. It's a good option for what I think is kind of an elegant, sexy looking car that not a lot of people do. Kind of a forgotten vehicle, I guess. Same era of the Impalas. You know, there's a number of cars, Grand Prix, Impala, some cool stuff from that era, that great chassis swap candidates. Now, one thing that we did upgrade pretty heavily, along with the obvious drivetrain and mechanical components, is the interior in this car. We sent this out to Jeremy Miranda at Miranda Built, who's now doing upholstery in-house down in Delray Beach, Florida. Him and his team, they put together a really cool interior it's a nice nod to the original interior. Same design, same pleats in the door panels, the same pleats in the seats. We wrapped them in a early 60s Impala trim. So it's got chrome trim on the back of the seat just to kind of dress it up. The seats actually come from a Hellcat Charger. So they're like, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5-way adjustable power, heated and cooled, super comfortable, good bolster in the seat. Oftentimes, if you're not using a Recaro seat, I like trying to find something that's like OE, you know, a modern OE seat to work off of. They can be a little tricky just because of the height on them. Can't always package them in a lot of these muscle cars and classics, so be conscious of that if that's something you want to retrofit. But Jeremy and his team, they did a heck of a job putting these seats together, recovered them. I mean, car sits great, feels good. It has a Contour steering wheel in it, 3-spoke wheel. Kind of last minute, we decided to get this leather wrapped. So called in a favor at my buddy, another Jeremy, JK Custom Auto Design. He stitched this up by hand. These leather wrap wheels really, they really soften down the car. I mean, it feels great when you're hanging onto that wheel. Nothing abrasive, nothing sharp, just another little added bonus to these Survivor cars. Otherwise, nothing real wild. We did integrate a factory center console that was plated by Advanced Plating. Machined a little shift bezel, kind of surround the shifter on this T56. Integrate the power window switches, along with the kind of rotary touch encoder that we have here. So, man, going around corners like that in a car this big, you should not be able to do that, but that's fun. And there's a lot of harsh stuff in the road here, and this car just absolutely swallows it up. Definitely one of the advantages of the independent rear. Any kind of imperfections that tend to pick on one side of the car or the other, the independent really just soaks it up. Nothing kind of transfers or resonates through the car, just glides right over it. But I mentioned the touch encoder. Right here at your fingertip, you have the ability to toggle through anything that's on your infotainment screen. This particular car actually works out pretty good because the screen is ergonomically placed. You can reach it really with no problem. You know, a lot of the muscle cars, the dash is quite a ways away from you. So if you're strapped in, which I just realized that I am not. So this is going to be another one of those videos that everybody is going to be upset with me for not wearing my seatbelt. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to put my seatbelt on. How's that? Because safety first. So back to what I was saying about what's important, the touch encoder, right? I can handle my AC controls right here. I can slide through different screens, and I can get to anything that I want, anything that I've got programmed on here. So on this, I can get to my stereo controls, Bluetooth through it, change the volume, toggle through the songs, anything I want to do right there at your fingertips. Let's see, we got a good stretch of road up here that we can let this thing rip a little bit. So we'll roll into her this time. So I went right up to the speed limit and then slowed down. There's some crap in the road, so as you can see, garbage truck in front of me is throwing crap everywhere, but with this chassis, you can dodge anything you want. Acceleration's awesome, car puts it down great, handles great. Really, for a survivor, man, this is the total package. Some more details in the center console. Machined a little cup holder, kind of for two cups, 2 bottles, whatever you want. Great place to toss your cell phone. Little storage spot. We use some pretty cool vinyl wood grain that it's kind of got like an ebony look to it. Comes in real handy in a lot of these this era car for dressing something up and adding some style. And this right now, what we're going over is probably the roughest stretch of road that is anywhere near the shop. I mean, driving in, I drive this in, my new truck, my wife's SUV. I've driven this in everything. This road beats you up pretty good. And as you can see, I mean, this car just soaks everything up. This chassis, anybody's got one of these big bodied cars, this is 100% what I would recommend putting underneath it. RS fast track, independent rear. It's got a 9-inch center section, single adjustable shocks, Bayer 14-inch brakes on all 4 corners. Heck of a good driver. And you can really lug this thing down too. For an 850 horse motor, we got this cool Dakota Digital tack that they retrofitted that's just off to the left of the gauge cluster. I mean, we're sitting at like 1200 RPMs, and this thing's just coasting. A heck of a highway machine. And dipping into the throttle right there, I mean, doesn't fall on its face, doesn't chug, instant throttle response. Good package. I think my buddy Casey's gonna owe me a free motor after this endorsement. Super fun car to drive. Back at the shop now.